What's up, Sleepers Media? We're back. We're doing another preview here. We've got Kansas against Missouri this time. I'm Matt. He's J-Man. The game is on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Kansas is coming off a closely contested loss to UConn, 61-56. Missouri is coming off a 76-71 loss to Notre Dame. Kansas, during the Players era, beat Notre Dame 71-61. So via transitive property, Kansas is already better than Missouri. J-Man, do we even need to play this game?
I like the way you think. I don't think so. I think you said it best. The property is transitioned over to Kansas winning this game, and they don't have to play this a no contest. And that's probably good for Kansas fans. They don't have to see Melvin Council shoot any more jump shots. Because if you're a Kansas fan, you've seen me on here every Kansas video, it feels like. And I'm pounding the table. Stop shooting the ball, go to the cup. And
Yep.
when he goes to the cup, good things happen. And then he was the leading shot taker for Kansas and the 61-56 loss, and that's how you lose ball games, to be honest. I mean, it's as simple as that almost.
I said this on a preview with Riley, I think, but I think he looks in the mirror and sees Steph Curry, and it's like, no, bro, you're Melvin Council. Like, just dial some of the shots down a little bit because he does so many good things, and I'm gonna be in the same boat where Kansas fans are like, oh, enough of this trash Melvin Council shit. But I really like him. I was high on him coming in from the A10. It's just they can't have that many wide open looks result in long Melvin Council jumpers. Maybe we get Darren Peterson back in this game. It sounded like all the media members were secretly trying to leak out that he'd be back before UConn. Bill Self said he was at 95%, not 100, and was kind of a late scratch there, day of. So seems reasonable to expect that by Sunday he could be back for this one. And I think that's good for Kansas from a shot making perspective, but also you've got to reintegrate him. They've played very differently without him, and he's going to be a guy that needs the ball a lot here too. So how do you think they go about? I don't know. We see some growing pains trying to like reabsorb Darren Peterson back into what Kansas has become without him.
Yeah, I think there's going to be like slow certain moments of the game when he comes back. Like it wouldn't be the whole game or even a half, but maybe like a 4 minute stretch. Even it could be the first 4 minutes of the game where they're trying to get acquainted on the court. It's like, whoa, like this is I've been out on the court for the last 5 games and you haven't, or whatever, however many games he's missed. And I just want to say one last thing about Council. There's been one game this year, one game out of all the games that Kansas played that he has shot over 50%. And that was the Green Bay game, the season opener. He was 4-5 with no threes taken. That is the key right there. That's the key. And everything else has been under 40% for the most part. And that's going to spell trouble. And I think with Darren Peterson coming back, I think that helps my take with Counselor where he can do what he is really good at doing, being fast as hell and going to the cup because the defense is going to be so locked in on Darren Peterson with the ball in his hands. You swing it over to the slot to Council. He has a full head of steam because his guy's on help side and he can blow by and make a athletic layup or he can kick it. He's a really good facilitator as well. And so I think honestly, when Darren Peterson comes back, I think that will help. Obviously, it's going to help Kansas's offense be more efficient because you have a top two pick coming back, but it's going to help the other guys, the role players, excel in their certain roles that I think they're really good at. And then it's going to make it easier for Badunga as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he could use some help. I think Bryson Tiller is another guy that's slumping a little bit offensively. So someone to take a little heat off of them and get him a few easier looks would be really nice here. I'm worried about this Missouri team on the boards here a little bit. They've actually out-rebounded their opponents by a pretty decent margin here this year, but they got beat on the boards by Notre Dame, who I think of as like more of a finesse team, and I think that's not great if you're Dennis Gates. Like I don't think you're wanting to see a game where your leading rebounders is Anthony Robinson with 7 rebounds and Mark Mitchell is the next closest to him at 5, and then no one else really like was particularly effective rebounding the ball. I think that's a real advantage in the front court here from that perspective with Floyd Badunga and Bryson Tiller. I don't know. Do you see any other sort of aspects of this game that you'd be particularly worried about if you're one team or the other?
I think what you said with the front court is probably where I was going to go with that too, is because I watched Badunga be a grown man against Duke's big guys, and then Tiller, like you said, he's been slumping, but he's
It's
more than
getting good.
capable of getting
Yeah.
out of that slump. And then honestly, I'm going to count Trey White into the front court since he is a small forward, kind of the
Sure.
old-fashioned small forward, and He's coming off a quiet game in the loss against UConn, only 3 shot attempts, and he was outstanding in the loss against Duke, and he's been really good in the absence of Darren Peterson to where I expect him to have a bounce back game. And I think he is going to be I overlooked him as the X factor in the Duke Kansas game. I will not overlook him as the X factor in this Kansas Missouri game because him coming off of a quiet 8 points and 7 rebounds, which he is phenomenal at crashing the glass. This screams as a Trey White bounce back game for Kansas, and I like that matchup with them against Missouri.
I think the other thing Peterson helps them with is if one guy has the ball so much of the time, less passing may potentially even mean less turnovers. And this has been uh, a, a team in Missouri that's pretty good at forcing turnovers, about 14 a game, but they scored 19 points per game off of it. And they didn't shoot the ball particularly well in that last game against Notre Dame. They're just not a great shooting team. I mean, actually, I'll take that back. Missouri's a pretty good shooting team. So you're hopefully a really good perimeter defense in Kansas. You can slow them down on that end. You can't afford to give them like clean, easy, free looks that even this that front court disparity up a little bit here. And I'm saying front court disparity like Sean Stewart is pretty good, right? Like it's not like there's a bunch of bums here uh for this team. Or sorry, Sean Stewart. I said Sean Stewart. Wrong former Duke guy. Mark Mitchell, excuse me, is pretty good. He's coming off a good game for them in the Notre Dame game, but like he's not Badunga and Tiller from like a beef perspective. So I don't know. I'm just sort of rambling here a little bit, J-Man. I'm not really sure what to make of this game. Like I think if Peterson plays, it's definitely advantage Kansas. Otherwise, I think it's a little closer, but I still think I would probably lean Kansas in this one. I don't have to get predictions yet, but anything else that you're thinking about that makes sense in this matchup that you want to touch on here before we start to wrap this one up?
Well, since I am a Duke guy, Mark Mitchell, I will touch on Mark Mitchell. He's averaging 18 points a game, which is great, and 6 rebounds and 3 assists. But he's still the same Mark Mitchell that he was at Duke and his second year at Missouri. And Missouri fans would agree with that. Like, he's not going to knock it down from outside. He's 1 of 10. He made his first three of the year last game at Notre Dame, which coincidentally enough, the best 3 point shooting game of his career was at Notre Dame when he was in a Duke uniform. I think he hit 3 threes, and I called him Marksman Mitchell. And so,
Okay.
I think that's just at Notre Dame type of thing. He had 26 in that game, but what he wants to do offensively, he's 6'9", but when he goes to the rim, he kind of goes. My criticism with him at Duke was 6'9", but he kind of plays 6'6". Like he'd be around the rim and the ball would be lower rather than higher when he's trying to finish the contact. And you're going against a Badunga guy that, like I said, he's strong as an ox and he can really make things uncomfortable around the rim. Where I think this could be a Mark Mitchell game where he might be struggling around the rim to finish like a 5 of 12 type of thing with a few turnovers in the front court matchup. And I don't have anything else besides just a fun stat about Jacob Cruz because look, Cruz can put
Okay.
the ball in the hole, 14 points a game, but he has, you know how many assists he has on the season?
No, no guess.
He has accidentally had 3 assists this year.
Okay.
3 assists total. He's averaging
Yeah.
point 0.3 assists
Yeah.
and in the season.
That's
That
actually
is
hard. That's hard to do. You'd feel like somehow you'd airball a shot and someone would catch it and dunk it in for even more than three of those times per year or something crazy like that.
he's played 200 minutes, has 3 assists. That's just a stat that I had to bring up because I was very shocked to see that. But they got 4 guys, basically 5 guys, and averaging 10 plus points a game. And so if Mark Mitchell struggles to get it going, like I said, Cruz is a guy that he can shoot from deep 49%. Like they have other guys. Jaden Stone can step up into the role, and maybe that's where they find their success. Say that Darren Peterson's not back, or even if Darren Peterson is back, he's not 100%, and the guard play for Missouri shoots lights out against Kansas, and that can keep them in the ball game. But from a starting five to starting five, even without Darren Peterson, I like Kansas. I just did not like. That was a bad loss to me for Missouri to have at Notre Dame, and I just don't know what to make of this Missouri team yet because the games before them that didn't show me anything either. Everybody outside of Minnesota were in the bottom like 250 of Ken Palm. So I don't know what to make of them, and I feel a lot more comfortable with what I've seen from Kansas.
Yeah, I would imagine I'm going to speak on their behalf, knowing very little about them as a fan base, but Missouri fans are probably a little curious about what this team is. They're 8-1 right now, but you lose again to Notre Dame, and then your coach is basically shaming Notre Dame fans for not showing up more, which is just sort of like a weird thing to do for an opposing coach to do in a loss. Like I would rather my coach be focused on my team a little bit more before going public with some critical comments of another fan base. So they're 8-1, but like you said, is it a real 8-1? I think we'll have the answer by Sunday afternoon. By the time we get to our preview here, to me, just boiling this one down, it's Kansas is really good from a perimeter defense perspective. If Peterson doesn't play, it's Council and Jamari McDowell are tough. Marco Jackson's been playing well, but I mentioned and maybe undersold them here a little bit. This is a good shooting Missouri team. They're 54% from the field on the season while holding opponents below 40%. And they're shooting 38% as a team from three and holding opponents at 33%. So if you're Kansas, you're not going to shoot particularly well, so you can't afford to let this Missouri team get hot, but that is one of their strengths. So I think it's going to be a really interesting stylistic matchup here, and hopefully we're all in for a good game. Jay, man, I'm putting you on the spot here. What's your prediction for this one?
Yeah, I think Ken Palm has it a 5 point game, a 5 point win. Wait, no, 3 point win. Sorry, I was looking at the Notre Dame loss. Sorry, Missouri. The 3 point loss against Kansas, 76-73. I think it's gonna be more than that. I I would think it's single digits, but I think it's more than three. I'm gonna go 79-72, Kansas.
Yeah, I was going to be somewhere in that ballpark as well. If this one ended up being a higher scoring, more running affair, it wouldn't shock me because I don't know. I'm selfishly hoping that's the case. I've watched a lot of slow basketball games here recently. So for me, I maybe like 80 to 75, something like that. I think I would take. But either way, same ballpark. We'll be back. We'll see how wrong or right we were about any of these things. And if you're either a Tiger fan or a Jayhawk fan, let us know in the comments how you're feeling about this and what we screwed up or what we messed up on, and we'll hit it all in the recap. So stay tuned and hopefully a good basketball game for us.